Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm so glad you guys could join us today. We are once again live from the Garris Gallery of the American West here at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. And our special guest today is Mikel Davison. Mikel is not from, but you live in this area. You've been here for a little bit.
I've been in this part of the state probably for 40 years.
40 years. So, you know,
in this area.
Pretty close to calling it home.
Yeah.
And he's a local artist, but your works are known across much of the
Yeah,
US.
I'm a pretty regional artist. My stuff is predominantly in the southwestern United States, and that's pretty much the subject of my stuff. I'm in Santa Fe, I'm out in Taos, and I'm in a Wildfire Gallery in Oklahoma City, and North Gallery in Oklahoma City, and I'm in got a little gallery in Marlow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so in Oklahoma City, are those in Paseo?
Wildfire is in Paseo,
Okay.
and North Gallery is in North Park Mall, and in Santa Fe, it's Armijo River Gallery on Canyon Road, and then in Taos, it's New West Gallery, Taos New West, and then I think Paseo, not Paseo, I can't remember what Jolene named her gallery.
But Jolene Forbes,
yeah.
Jolene has been on Trail Talk before, and she loves to come when we have events here and set up.
She's great, yeah.
She does some really interesting,
Interesting class pieces.
right? But really, really fun pieces. But anyway, Mikel is back. This is his second time to be on Trail Talk. Back when we first started, you were one of our probably maybe top first. For easily the first 10, you might have been in the first 5 people who were on Trail Talk.
The funny thing about that was that's when I was first kind of start doing it. I was just finishing up my teaching career, and I had been doing pieces all along for a long period of time. And what happened was I was working at the alternative school, and Leah Mulkey, Miss Mulkey, contacted Miss Phipps. Miss Phipps was talking about possible artists, and she said, and I was teaching alternative art at the time, and she said, well, you need to get Mikel Davison. And so they came by, and I said, well, let's go out the house. And of course, everything I had was just getting shoved into the beds or hung on my wall or stuck in the shop. And they were running around going, yes, yes, yes. So I said, okay, yeah. And that was really part of the first part of mine. It was the first time I was ever in any kind of gallery, private or museum gallery. And it went really well. I remember getting home telling my wife, saying, I think I can do this. So I just thought it was weird stuff. I was throwing it into the bed. My kids were saying, oh, I like that, Dad. I thought that's all it was. Apparently, I touched some boards.
Sure enough, other people like it. So how long have you been taking pieces like to Santa Fe and Taos? And
probably about a year after that, Miss Forbes had a gallery in Oklahoma City, and I got in her gallery. She took me into her gallery in Oklahoma City, and I did well in Oklahoma City. And at that point in time, I don't know, being pretty naive and just kind of out there like I am, I told some other artist friends that I had a piece, and a couple of pieces, and I said, I'm going to take these out to Taos, and I'm going to get the gallery out of it. And they said, oh yeah, you go do that. All right. Of course, I didn't know how you were supposed to do it, so I just got in the car and drove out there, started walking from gallery to gallery. It was kind of, you better not have much of an ego when you do it.
intimidating was
it was intimidating. It was, and not everybody was real receptive.
Right.
And then I walked into a gallery that was Copper Moon, and she's retired that gallery now because she was older, and Diana Miller was the owner of the gallery, Copper Moon Gallery. And she looked at my stuff and she said, sure, I want all your sculpture stuff, because I didn't know that sculptors were hard to find. And she was really into outsider art. And that's kind of what I considered myself at the time, was outside of art, because I didn't know I actually had a genre that I set in.
Right.
And the genre is New West. Well, she recognized that,
Uh-huh.
and she said, I'll take it. And I said, well, if you take my sculptures, you have to take my paintings too at some point in time. And she said, yes, she would. And she contacted me back probably about 3 months later, said, you got a show in August. If you do well, you can stay. And I said, okay. I kind of like this show. I just kind of went, oh, and I just went to work. And
Right.
went to work, produced a whole bunch of stuff, loaded up, took it out there with a perfect thought that she was probably gonna tell me to go away. And she didn't. I did all right. And so from that time on, it's just kind of
And so,
blossomed and blown. I've really been blessed.
and so that was in.
That was in Taos.
Taos. So when you went to Santa Fe, was it a little easier?
When she closed her gallery, this is how good a gallery owner she was. When she closed her gallery, she moved us all to, got us into galleries. And she talked to people from Armio, and the Armio people said, yes, we want you and want your sculpture stuff in particular.
Mhm.
And so they do mainly my skulls, small sculpture stuff. The owner of the gallery is a painter herself. And as you know, curator gallery, wall space is
prime.
prime. Get wall space in the gallery, you're gonna be able to move some pieces.
Right.
And one of the things too that is really evident in my probably last 10 years of doing gallery stuff is you have to fit it. You got to fit the gallery. In other words, you wouldn't want to take my stuff into a traditional fine art gallery because that's not my stuff. That doesn't fit the clientele.
Right.
And so that you have to fit the gallery's clientele.
Right. And you call it New West. Some of your sculptures have a very folk art feel to me.
Yes.
That's kind of
and that's kind of they have a new genre that I fit into also, which is called modern American folk.
Okay. Yes.
And so, for instance, like this piece right here, the Franciscan monk. Growing up in northwestern Oklahoma, we have a large German Catholic population. And so, Kingfisher, Archie, Alva. And so we had a large German Lutheran population.
Right.
And all of them recognize various saints at times. And so I grew up with Fish Friday because there's such a large Catholic population there, and many of my family members are Catholic. And so, saints just seem kind of part of northwestern Oklahoma. I mean, the traditions of German Czechs and all the people that settled in that portion of the state.
Right. And so he was kind of inspired by.
He's inspired by that, yeah. And if you notice the birds, the song "Jesus Love Me," red, yellow, black, and white, all the directions of the side. And I kind of came up with that. I started doing that probably about the time COVID fired up and everybody was just being crazy. And being a school teacher for 40 years is kind of like, why are we being crazy?
Yeah.
Quit it, sit down and stop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this guy, so do you make several variations of
I
this?
make several variations, and really my brother-in-law and I bought the pasture right next to us, and he began clearing the cedars off of it. And he asked me what I wanted to do with it. And at first I was like, well, I don't know. You're the one cutting them. And so he cut them all down and he began piling them up. And one day I was walking by and I thought, I think I can make a stain out of that because that's kind of what I started doing. So I've used up about I bet 60, 70. Yeah.
Wow. So are they all about this size?
No, I have some bigger ones, and I haven't done it in a while, put them on wire so they're kinetic, so you hit the birds and they bounce and they fly. If they're sitting out in the wind or something, they just kind of look like they're flying around the same thing.
Right. Oh, so do they always have?
No,
No.
at that time, they were, usually I was color coordinated, but with this, I like this scent, and I like this kind of thought that God went into this.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
And you can tell I like birds.
I was gonna say, if you guys can see here, Well, I'm surrounded by little birds, which I love them. And my daughter does not, so anytime I find some kind of little bird thing, I always buy it, and like put it somewhere. It's conspicuous,
Yeah.
and then she'll come across it, and she'll be like, ah, another bird. But I love your birds, and
I do,
what is the?
This is called, I do what they call in art world assemblage,
Okay,
which is I take junk and I put it all together to make something. For instance,
so you repurpose.
I repurpose it.
Okay.
This hardwood base on all these is called oilfield doofing.
Uh-huh.
And they're huge hardwood sleepers that they lay a oil field pipe on. They can't ship it unless it's on hardwood. And so I have a friend that has the largest pipe, manages the largest pipe yard in the United States. And he gets tons and tons of this hardwood doofing stuff. And I'll cut it down and reshape it. This is hog panel wire.
Okay,
From big old hog panel.
right.
Yeah, I found an old rusty hog panel fence, I pull it up and make it. And then, of course, the stuff is sometimes it's cedar, sometimes it's pine, sometimes it's old 2x4, sometimes it comes stick it all
Yeah, you
together.
can tell the base is a much heavier wood
Yeah.
than these are a lighter weight.
The ones I really enjoy are the little,
Remember you want to,
cellular
oh, he'll get one. He's gonna go get us one of the other birds. I saw him over there.
scissor bills.
The scissor
Oh,
tails.
scissor
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they just lend themselves to flight, if you know, they just kind of,
they do. I love, there's
They're just
some that
fun kids.
live near here,
Yeah.
the museum. And in the mornings, they'll be flying around, get on the High Line wire, and flit around. And I love them.
they're all over my place. They're
Uh-huh.
just all over, because I have so many grasshoppers and stuff out there. They're just,
Right, yeah.
they just go crazy.
Yeah, so you can see the shape, he's got the long tail, and they're just, and the color, you do the color really.
Yeah, I like keeping,
Whimsical like
Yeah,
these.
I like to keep it really simple.
Mhm.
In my, I like a lot of color. People think I use lots of color, and the truth of the matter is, if you look at my paintings, you might see 7 or 8 colors in the whole painting,
Right.
but I like bright colors. I
Mhm.
mean,
Well, you'll take a color and you'll use a lot of it.
a lot of it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, it creates
yeah.
really appealing pieces is what that color does. I
It
think.
tries to keep everything, I try to keep everything in the same universe.
Mhm.
By not using a full palette, it keeps everything in that painting in a full universe. It pulls it all
Mhm.
together. Because like if you're walking across the pasture, you'll see colors, not just in the pasture, but in the trees and everything around it. And it all pulls itself together. It's the light, it's the sky, it's reflection, and color affects color, so it bounces off each other.
Mhm.
And so I try to mimic that naturally by limiting my palette.
Right. So, I guess you piddled with art. You
All my-
taught all your life.
All my life,
Huh.
I started out, I had learning disabilities. I was ADHD. I was, just I was borderline dyslexic. I had problems in school, and my mom, she just kept trying to find things that I could kind of hook a hat onto.
Mhm.
And she tried music, piano, which, that was a disaster.
Right.
All kinds of things.
That takes a lot of focus.
Yeah, one day she asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, and I went to my room and I pulled out these Oklahoma Today and Outdoor Oklahoma
Mhm.
magazines, and at that time, those Outdoor had all this Native American art, and I said, it is. I want to learn how to do this. And then, of course, I had all kinds of collections of books that were Andrew Wyatt,
Mhm.
not Andrew Wyatt, but Wyatt,
Right.
Treasure Island, that kind of
Yes.
graphics in it. And I always loved Russell Remington's graphics.
Mhm.
And so my mom said, okay. And she went and found a guy by the name of Jack Hayward, which was a Western artist that had a little art studio taught art. And so I started there. And then I had a great high school art teacher by the name of Rod Duncan. And then I got to college and I just quit. I always kind of sketched, did that kind of stuff.
Right.
And had no intent, There's obviously no intention I was going anywhere with it.
Because you were a history teacher and basketball coach.
History teacher basketball. It wasn't until the end of my career, and I made the decision to take the art test.
To be a certified art teacher.
Yeah, I just added a certification. I
Right.
really didn't plan on teaching it. It was, they said, hey, when you do this, and I said, well, yeah, I'll go do it. I went and did it. And I ended up teaching art.
Yeah.
Wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but it opened the door to everything else because it gave me some basic fundamentals
Mhm.
where I, as a outsider, I could take those fundamentals and I could break the rules and go with them. So,
Right, right. So as an art teacher, did you ever see something in any of your students
Oh,
that
yeah.
you thought, okay,
they could do
they
something.
could
Yeah, they
do
could do
something.
something. Yeah.
They have a great
They
way.
have a great way of eye or what they expressing themselves.
Right,
And that's probably the hardest thing. The hardest thing with students, I think, is trying to get them to get outside of the box, because it's like all of them want to do anime
right.
because they
right,
want to watch anime. all the
Right.
time. They relate to it and get them out of the box and finding something that they relate to. For instance, like my art, this relates to me because this has been my family's home for well over 100 and some years,
Mhm.
and the stories and tales and things I saw. You talked about your grand tour across northwestern Oklahoma and all the places you stopped. Oh, my mom drove me to all that stuff.
Right.
I saw it all. And I heard all the stories and all the tales that went with it. And, it's just the fascination of cowboys and Indians and Chisholm Trail and bad guys and outlaws and buffalo herds. And
Yes, the whole gamut.
the whole gamut.
Yeah.
I was born to do what I'm doing right now.
Right, which is why your art, what you have fits in our gallery so well. I mean, we
Thank you.
have,
I appreciate that.
we have pieces that are more, I don't know, a more traditional,
Yes, finer
a
art,
finer art,
fine art tradition.
but the genre that you spoke of, it's just a fit,
If you grow up in Oklahoma, you understand the concept of distress.
Mhm.
An old tractor, an old barn, an old, you understand that,
Mhm.
because it's Oklahoma, it's not an easy place to live.
Right.
It goes, for instance, it could be 105 for 3 weeks, or it could be 5 below for 3 weeks,
Yes,
so,
exactly.
and you never know what's gonna happen. That can happen one day to the next,
That is,
so.
yeah.
So everything here has a little bit of wear and tear on it. And I think the stuff I do, the animals I do, kind of touches a nerve
Mhm.
in Oklahoma, because we've all seen it. I think a good example of that is the piece over there, Tatum's Cowboy. I
Mhm.
don't know how many times I've seen, that's not actually the name of it, but I don't know how many times I've seen it where guys were just sitting on their running boards of their truck at a rodeo, talking and just kind of BSing with each other about their day or their year or their cows or their horses or their wives or whatever.
Exactly, that's interesting, that piece, because the guy who was just here, Alan Ball, the photographer, he had a photograph of a boot,
Yeah,
a cowboy boot, and it was on a guy's leg, and the guy
Yeah.
was sitting, the story was that
Yeah.
the guy was sitting at a rodeo, and
Yeah.
it's just that same thing. I mean, what you're saying is exactly right. It's a
Yeah.
common scene.
it's a common scene, common thread, and people can relate to it.
Mhm. Yes, yeah, for sure.
You-
So, I have, just named this part of your, collection here, the macabre wall.
Because
Because
of
skeletons
the
here.
skeletons.
Yeah, it's my little fun name for it.
When I lived at Warwick,
Uh-huh.
I would go down to the river all the time. And there's a place in Warwick that at one time was a huge Wichita Indian villages
Oh.
on down the river. It's on private property, and we would walk down the road to get to the river. And one day I began to notice all these flint chips and all these old broken arrowheads and stuff.
Right.
And I was picking them up and thinking about it. Not long after that, a side of the bank caved in, and the old Cadone graves, they would burrow down and put them in a squat position because it's so hard digging up on the soil, on the bluffs. And so some of the tribes would actually, that's how they bury their DNA, kind of like Peruvian mummies.
Right.
Yeah, but they weren't mummified like that.
Right.
And so I got to ask the guy, told me about it. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. Then I saw another guy that said, when I was a kid, my grandfather told me that they would have large burial priors, I guess. They raised them up in the air. And I thought, how cool is that? That these were here and that these people put them here.
Right.
Because they were part of who they were.
Yes.
And it's I don't know. One day I thought I saw that piece of wood and I thought that would be so cool to put a kind of a weird skeleton on it. I get weird sometimes. I gotta admit, I get weird.
He's got a little macabre in him. That's what I'm thinking.
And so that's kind of what they remind the ancestors. Yeah, I call them the ancestors.
Okay.
Yeah. So of course the pops the color on them and stuff would represent the birds and the pastures and all the different things.
Well, we read a book in the Let's Talk About It book club that we're hosting here. And it was called The Shell Shaker. And it was, it described a burial and, how they would lay people out with certain items and then come back after a certain period of time and
Gather the bones,
do the get the bones. Yeah, they had just all of that. And that's really what these made me think of.
Then that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because the culture is so different from today or even from what we as the European descendants, what we would have ever done, as far as burial and the post-death, what we would do with the body. And I think it's so cool and so interesting and all of the meaning with it. And it gets lost.
It does.
If
it
we
does.
don't have reminders, something visual and something to attach a story to.
I like to think that when I'm doing my art, I'm telling the story of not just me and mine. I like to think after working school systems, working with kids of all diversities, that my story, their story, and I feel this way. Their story is my story, because it's just like my art was influenced by guys like Jerome Tiger and Alan Hauser and all these same artists, had an influence on me, and so their story is really part of my story.
Right.
And I don't think you can actually grow up in Oklahoma and not take in the diversity and the history of this state.
If you do, you've missed out.
Yeah, I don't know. You really have. You've shut yourself off from some of the most incredible things in our state. I mean, it's not, geographically, our state is, we go from high bases to swamp bottom and alligators.
Exactly.
In an afternoon, in a day's drive.
Yeah.
It changes. I mean, it's like 25, I want to say there's 25 different ecosystems in our state.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's the same thing with people. I mean, I mentioned them earlier, the Czech population, German population, Italian population, white shorn.
Right, over Krebs.
African American freemen that came in with the five civilized
communities.
All black communities, Fort Sill was built by the Buffalo soldiers.
Yes.
I mean, all this stuff is still here.
Yes.
You just got to look around and find it. And if you don't think those roots don't sink into you, then I'll argue with you.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too. I mean that, and these are the feelings that you're going to experience when you're here amongst your pieces of art.
Right.
And you have, you do other things whimsical besides colors of birds. I mean, you have like the little deer.
Yeah.
This guy is a real cute.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Again, this is the assemblage stuff. All of it comes from, I have a great neighbor by the name of Jack Bishop. And he's a really good carpenter, and he'll, like, when he does demo and stuff, he has a burn pile that he brings all his stuff to, never sets on fire, which I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah.
And I climb all over that burn pile to get
your
silly
stuff.
things, yeah.
Uh-huh.
You can tell I like Shasta daisies.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so do you, are these,
That's,
do you?
yeah, that is actually, that's oak, hardwood oak
Uh-huh.
limbs that come off my bottom place down there.
Right.
I walk around finding weird stuff, carrying it back to the house all the time. My wife, I wear her out.
Well, I mean, so you don't ever see anything as a piece of trash.
Very
You-
seldom.
Very seldom. You see a
A
piece,
piece.
a piece of art.
What's a really neat story? Let me walk back over here.
Yes,
This is the great, this chair right here.
Oh, good, because I wanted to have that chair.
This chair right here,
Oh.
this chair right here, this is great. Most people would look at it and say, oh my God, what this is art.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And the reason I say that is I was looking for some tulip forks
Mhm.
and Jack's burn pile. And when I got to it, as I got to the burn pile, I looked over on the corner. I'd never noticed it. This chair was sitting on top of the burn pile by itself, just sitting by itself. And I said, you know what? You've spoken to me today. You belong in an art show. And so I took it home, I cleaned it all up. And of course, audience, I like this teal. I like
Oh,
this.
yeah, yeah.
And I distressed it. And then
Mhm.
my granddaughter came walking out and I thought she was pink.
Mhm.
Saw the pink daisies all over it. It was just like it. There was on the trash pile. I said, "You're a piece of art now."
Exactly.
So,
And how great is that? Just to see the potential
yeah.
in anything.
Chairs are my obsession too. I love old
I do
chairs.
too. I
Yeah,
have
it's-
so many mismatched chairs at my house. My husband's like, what are you?
Yeah, yeah.
Is.
And you can do like old chairs. You can do all crazy colors with them,
Right.
and they work.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But
Well,
no, that's the one to talk to.
This chair, this is a great piece. I'm gonna slide it over here because I also want people to notice this chest that is here, because this is also
This is a piece of history.
a piece.
Yeah.
So let's hear the
This
story about
is
this.
this is an assemblage piece.
Uh-huh.
I had a friend contact me, and one of the things he contacted me about was his great grandfather was one of the first livery services in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
So after the run of '89, he came in with the run of '89,
Mhm.
and he opened up a livery station, Phillips Livery Service. And he called me, he said, hey, my grandparents, my great granddad bought this place north of Avenue on Coffee Creek, and we've had a quarter section up there for years. And I finally sold it. And he said, do you want to come up and go through our old barns? And I said, yeah, I did.
Right.
So I got there, and when I got there, he started pulling out all this stuff from his livery service. In the back of the panel, I don't think you can see it. On the very back of the panel, that was a crate.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, the crate.
letters.
Stencil letter from crate that he said came from the livery barn. And
Wow.
inside of it was full of all these bridles for the mule teams.
Uh-huh.
So what happens, people would come in after Oklahoma City got kind of established. People would bring their families, and now they bring all their furniture stuff, and they'd go to the railroad yard, pick it up, and take it to wherever their
Mhm.
allotment was.
Right.
Right. So I got that, and then these was part of a walnut bedstead that was in terrible shape. He said, this was my great grandfather's too. So this is probably here in Oklahoma. And
Mhm.
so I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So, and the windows came out. I used to flip houses.
Right.
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 So the windows came out of the old house that I had. And so I had a conglomerate of everything kind of put together. Some of the wood comes from a friend of mine's shop. Do you remember the El Reno tornado that had five?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Andy had a shop that was destroyed by this tornado. And he called and he said, you gotta help me come. And so I was out running around gathering up all this really cool wood because it had all kind of tor marks on it. And so, yeah, I had that. And it just kind of conglomeration of things came together to make this wine cabinet. Yeah.
Well, it is a very cool piece of furniture, and I mean, it's eye-catching in and of itself, but then when you hear the story,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, behind
all the
it,
pieces that went into it, yeah.
and just
Yeah.
how all of
And that
this-
happens all the time. There's a chair over there, that, I call sit pretty.
Uh-huh.
And that came, he gave me the pieces of that chair. And when he, we were in the barn, he said, "Do you want this?" And he held up like pieces of this chair. And I said, "Oh, absolutely." So I put the chair back together
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't think about what I was going to do with it. And so I thought, well, put birds on it. So and I started putting birds, put birds on it. I started in, and I didn't do anything with the chair except clean it up, put it back together and glue it and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, nobody in their right mind except my granddaughter could actually sit on it. But then the birds started going on. I was just going to directly mount them on. And then I had these support wires that go to windmills, twisted wire. You'll see it in their stands. And so I cut that, mounted them up. I thought I had that feet, and I found some old fence paneling again and went crazy.
Wow, so your mind is
Yeah, all
just,
over this place.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is. But those.
that's my ADD
Well,
superpower.
that's what I was about to say. So just as a thought, all these things that make it really hard for you to have ever been the kid who
Yeah.
could sit in a classroom at a desk and take in what the teacher says and do what you're supposed to do and just be all of that in that little box.
It was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
But
Yeah.
look at what a true gift it is now.
Into the day.
And so I say that just to point out, if you know someone who's like that, a kid, a teenager, give them some time, be like your mom.
My mom was the same. I thought she was a demon because, but she nenever gave up. And if my mom hadn't been like she was, I would not be able to read or write today.
Well,
And
giving you outlets and giving
Yes.
you ways to use up that energy and use up those thoughts in your head, I mean, that's just such a great thing. And I just think it's important to never
absolutely.
discount
Discount,
someone because they don't fit.
well, you don't realize, that one thing may actually be their superpower. I mean, you look at so many guys, Albert Einstein, you look at Mozart, you look at so many guys that face some type of adversity.
Yeah.
Learning disabled to turn, led them into other areas to allow them to achieve.
Yes, exactly.
That's so cool.
Exactly. So, besides all of these great sculptures, you also have brought some really cool paintings, and your paintings are generally, I like to use the word substantial. They are large.
They absolutely.
I mean, you do have some here that are smaller. These might be the smallest pieces that I've ever seen.
That
that you've done,
yeah.
but they're great.
Yeah.
Style and everything. He does a really cool thing with animals of all sorts. But I picked out a few, so I'm gonna walk
Okay.
over and grab a couple of.
I'll change this.
Okay, I'm gonna bring this easel because I want the landscape. I think it's gonna be fun to show everybody too. But first, we're gonna go with these. Now, are these
This is good.
crows, blackbirds?
These are crows.
Okay.
And across our region, y'all know, because you've seen it across West Texas and Mexico
Mhm.
and Oklahoma, you see murders of crows.
Yes.
Flocks of crows.
Right.
And
That's a great word though, murderer.
murder just goes along with the ancestry.
It
That's
does,
it,
yeah.
it's all. So anyway, I think crows are fun. I
Mhm.
love watching. With all cultures, they're considered as spiritual.
Right.
Some cultures consider them harbingers of evil, and other cultures consider them harbingers of good.
Mhm.
For instance, some Native American tribes believe the crows are black because they flew too close to the sun, because they stole fire
Uh-huh.
to give from the gods to give to man. And when they were making their escape, they flew too close to the sun. They got burned. And so, and many native tribes are considered tricksters.
Right, yeah.
Kind of like the coyote.
Yes,
And I'm
exactly.
a coyote, so.
And don't they like take shiny things?
Yeah,
Aren't there
yeah,
stories
yeah,
about, yeah.
And they're many, like, so, anyway, I like doing them, and this is kind of a new deal. I get tired of people, I'm an analog guy. It's obvious I'm a really analog kind of
Right.
guy.
Right.
And so the world is digital now, so this is my interpretation of digital art, right? Sorry, it's.
No, but it's all painted by hand,
Yes, all painted by hand.
right? And so are these stencil?
Yeah,
The
and then these are
circles?
stencils, I made the stencils, and then
Oh, so you made the stencils
yeah,
too?
yeah.
And so this piece also. Oh, that's the word. I mean, this looks like wallpaper
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, and I do a lot of stuff with wallpaper. I like wallpapers. Yeah,
I mean, again, he's
I
finding
know.
a way to repurpose something, but these are very unique, really cool pieces. And I just wanted the viewers to see these. And you like to paint animals.
I like him, yeah.
What is it about that?
My mom, again, my mom, went back and got a biology degree
Ah,
when I was a kid. And so I was still young. And so I was the guy that got drugged on all her like leaf collection, bug collections, that kind of stuff.
uh-huh,
And my mom was really a sharp gal.
mhm.
And she introduced me to bird watching, which even as an adult, I did a lot of bird watching and other animals. The buffalo was the girl, and she,
Right, yeah.
she drugged me to see buffalo and everything else, and kind of told me the story. So yeah, my mom had a big influence. So I love animals. What's really neat is I watched my daughter now works the wildlife.
Right.
Yeah, National Park and Wildlife.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just part of my mother's legacy. Continues,
Mhm.
So, yeah, and animals are fun. They amuse me and make me
Well,
laugh.
you're able to kind of capture a bit of a personality,
Oh, they got personality.
in the animals that
Yeah.
you paint them. And,
I particularly like painting animals that are that most people see.
mhm,
And,
very familiar.
very familiar with
Uh-huh.
it, that is really part, like the scissor tail is really part of our Oklahoma identity, and really, I've never met an Okie that, just did a lot of scissor tail.
Oh, exactly. Speaking of which, I pulled that big scissor tail picture over, for us to look at, because it's one of my favorite ones. It really caught my eye when I came in and I was looking at the pieces that you brought. Look at this.
Oklahoma skies.
Is that what this is?
Oh, yeah, it's just
I-
Oklahoma skies. That's really kind of how it started, was when I- when I started doing scissor tails, you step out of my shop
Mm-hmm.
and you look directly west. So every night I have this like theatric sky across,
Right.
all these different colors. And so one day I decided I was just gonna do sky painting. I kind of did that,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that's nice, but okay. And then I thought, I'm gonna put a scissor tail on it. So I just kind of went with that. Scissor tail. We've all seen this 1,000 times.
Sitting on a string of barbed wire
Yep.
right
You
here.
walk out of my house in the morning, there'll be one sitting on the neighbor's barbed wire fence,
Mhm.
just sitting there,
So what is your medium of choice? What type of paint?
I use house paint. It's
Okay,
kind of embarrassing, but again, it has to do with, when I first started, I really couldn't afford,
the art supplies.
the art supply,
Uh-huh.
and then I kind of got where, people had all these misted tin paints, paints they didn't want, and I had them, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna, from flipping all the houses,
Right.
I'm gonna just gonna do this, and it really kind of turned out really well.
So even the brilliant colors that were on those crows.
Yeah, I use epoxy resin. Some of the stuff I put in epoxy resin to get that wet.
Uh-huh.
And you can really see it on the Native American over. I put the, get that wet,
Mhm.
hard gloss and something. You know, I really don't have a choice medium. When you come to my studio, you'll walk in, it looks like somebody's trying to hang grenades. There's power tools, old chairs, and everything just everywhere. And there's 3 or 4 projects going on at the same time.
Ah,
And so I'm just kind of moving from place to place. Whenever I kind of get an idea, everything may just kind of get dropped and I go over it because I get it in my head, I gotta get it out.
right,
I gotta
right. At
get
least get something going on
No,
that.
There
Yeah.
there it goes. So yeah, so my choice medium is really, I mean, I have just as much fun doing this kind of stuff as I have doing, this is fun.
Right.
This is fun. This is one of those things that, when they say, oh, do something you love. I have been fortunate in my lifetime to have 2 jobs that I actually love.
Yeah. 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 That's a
That's
That's a
pretty big
good-
jump. That's,
pretty good deal right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
this one. Now let's bring it over the Native American. What's the name of it?
Take it back up.
Okay.
My boss, I paint so much, I name so much stuff. Yeah. Warrior with pipe. That's
Warrior with the pipe. Okay, yeah. And that's him right there.
That's it. If you notice, this guy is on hard pan. And,
Okay, yeah.
and there's a texture on that pan, you can't feel it,
Uh-huh.
but all those rough places.
Uh-huh.
There's, I take the panel and I gesso the panel. And then I put a special kind of spackle on it. And then I gesso that again.
Mhm.
And then I paint it black. This is style I like painting black
Yeah.
and then coming back and redrawn the image in chalk. And then applying paint and letting the black come through.
So it's kind of like you're doing negative
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
Painting.
I start out and come,
Uh-huh.
I
Wow,
go
that's
backwards.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
I go
cool.
backwards, yeah.
Huh. That is something, but yeah, I guess you
And
can
then I
see
put
the
the-
high gloss on
Then
it.
I put the epoxy finish on it.
Right.
It just gives it a different type of
It-
gloss. to it.
Yeah, and it really kind of makes it,
Makes it
it-
carry, I think some of the animals have it, some of them don't.
yeah, but when I say substantial, this is a piece and it's not even like the largest.
I want these to be statement pieces.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't want to hang a piece on the wall and everybody walk by and they go, that's nice,
Right.
I'm good or bad, I want you to stop and go, oh, wow,
Mhm.
this guy this guy
Yeah,
made a statement here.
Yeah.
I don't know, I like it,
Yeah.
it's a statement,
it
yeah.
definitely is. Well,
Yeah.
this is a very cool piece. Anyone who has kind of a Native American theme in their homes, or even if they don't.
No,
I kind of have picked up a lot of pieces of art from the featured artist
Sure.
shows. And so I'm kind of eclectic.
oh, you
You
walk
know,
in my house, it's
and-
insane.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun to
Yeah.
have different types of,
I was, this is kind of interesting. I was in mourning I've been in mourning for like 6 or 7 years for gray being the color of choice. In remodel, beige and gray,
yeah.
And I'm a guy that's, if it's not a lot of color, then, and you would be surprised how many of my pieces are like in ultra modern houses
Mhm.
hanging over the fireplace.
Mhm.
They'll have all these other things, but then they'll have this giant burst of color over the
Right,
fireplace. So I
right.
think it's fun.
Well, see, that's what my husband and I found a paint that was the perfect combination of beige and gray.
Yeah.
It's called grayish. But if all my walls are that color, every piece of art pops
Pops
off.
off the wall like a gallery. It
Yes,
is, yeah,
and
it
so,
does. Yeah.
I'm kind of happy that I ended up picking that because the artwork really does show up.
Yeah,
So,
that's, yeah.
yeah. So the other one, I'm gonna put him down. If you'll go get
Okay.
that other interesting.
Yeah, here, I'll just-
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna flip over to this other side. So this other piece, you called it a wood,
This is a block print,
a block print.
a block.
Okay, block,
First. First.
yeah.
The first Bible, the book ever printed was block print. And it was a Gutenberg Bible on the Gutenberg press.
Uh-huh,
And so basically what they did is they carved every page
wow.
and then they printed it.
So much work.
And until they learned how to use movable type,
Right,
okay?
right.
And so I was invited to what they call the Steamroller Fest in Oklahoma City at Art Space, Untitled Art Space. And they told me about how they ran over block prints with a steamroller. And I thought, I'm in, I'm gonna do this. And so we met, this is basically, most people don't make giant block prints.
Yeah.
And they actually have one of the largest presses in the state.
Hmm.
And so I started making these large block prints, and this is all carved into MDF
Okay,
wood,
uh-huh,
manufactured wood. And then it's inked and sealed. This one, Buffalo Bill hadn't been,
used.
has never been printed.
Uh-huh.
And
So why is this black?
that's been, well, I ink it when I do it first.
Oh, okay.
I ink the whole thing and then I draw it out in chalk and then I carve it
Okay.
out.
All right.
And the reason I did Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley was because I had a lot of contact with Cimarron, New Mexico growing up. And most people don't know this, but Annie Oakley and Buffalo Bill met as sheep herders in Cimarron, New Mexico. And I want to say it was at the St. James Hotel there,
Okay.
you know, with Jesse James all shot up.
Uh-huh. So are these?
Little Buffalo, that's right.
Buffalo? Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's very
Yeah, that's
interesting.
where they came up with the idea of Wild West Show.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is a
of
great
course, he was
story.
a lot younger than. So.
Well, yeah, but still. And so you just saw, I mean, honestly, it's, I know it can make another piece of art,
Yeah,
you know, but,
it started out, my son, I did my first one.
uh-huh,
And I was selling the prints and my son came in and said, can I have a block? And I said, well, yeah, I guess, you know, I'm gonna do anything with it.
yeah,
Now, I wasn't ever gonna print anymore because it's not like everybody has a giant printing press.
right, yeah.
And so, yeah, and then all of a sudden, people were wanting the blocks after I framed them all out.
Uh-huh.
I said, okay,
And there you go.
there you go.
A brand new
Yeah,
way of
it's,
making the
Yeah.
art. That is cool. There was another artist that we had, oh, gosh, his name just slipped my mind again, but he did leather tools.
oh, yeah, I've seen his stuff.
Jim Weaver.
Yeah,
Jim
Weaver.
Weaver.
Yeah, I'm in the gallery with him there
Yes.
at Wildfire, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he has stuff at Wildfire.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love his stuff, but he makes these out of leather
Yeah,
and then presses them. He actually does his own
I
pressing.
actually met him in Medicine Park where I met him.
Is that
I'm
right?
gonna set this down.
Oh, yeah, it's heavy.
Okay.
It's heavy. I'm gonna get the last one I want to show people. We're coming back, y'all. Well, I'm so glad that Mr. Weaver is in a gallery and everything. You know, when he was here, he did leather tooling and told the whole story of the Chisholm Trail.
Mhm.
And like had from Texas across Oklahoma.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's man, it was just like the coolest thing, in addition to the things like that. So that is cool. And then this piece, I really like it because this is very different from, well, obviously it's different from anything else we've seen. It's different from the other pieces you've had here.
Mhm.
And it's just this beautiful landscape. And I like one of the things I like about this is, it has a feel of impressionism.
Yes,
Up close, I see all the little blobs and paint
Yes.
marks, but when I step back from it, it just all
meshes together.
meshes together
Yeah.
perfectly. And you said this is from
Northwestern.
northwestern
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Mhm.
That's the name of the piece, my Oklahoma.
Mhm.
The big skies, the wide open spaces. Where I grew up at, we were right on the edge of the Gypsum Hills or the Gloss Mountains. And, yeah, a lot of dry ravines, large pastures, and
Right,
all these other things.
yeah, I was struck by the wide open spaces.
Lots of it.
Yes, exactly.
It's funny, when I was growing up, when I was growing up in the sixties and the seventies, everything was under cultivation. It was all wheat as far as you can see. And they plowed everything. And here, wheat prices got more difficult, more, expensive farming got too expensive. And so most of it's been turned back to ranch land. But even so, it's just, it's beautiful, when you see the big, broad, short grass plains out there.
Right, it is.
It is.
It very much is. And these, the hills back in the background, even though it's not, it makes me think, I grew up right here in Southwest Oklahoma, and you can almost always see the Wichita Mountains.
Yes, yeah.
Over there.
You'll see that a lot of times in my paintings. You'll see. I lived on the hill. My wife was superintendent at Empire for a while, and we lived in the teacherage out there, and the practice was right behind us. But I chose that house, and that's because when you walked out of that house, you can see the silhouettes of the southeastern side of the Wichita.
Oh, I just have always loved that so much, and it applies to this too. On a clear day, you can see forever. That lyric from the musical Oklahoma, it absolutely captures. It is, and I think that's one of the most wonderful things about living here.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things, is how far you can see.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll be driving and I'll be like, Mom, I think I can see Texas over there.
When I was a kid, we'd go out to northwest of Alabama, and there was some bases and bluffs out northwest of Alabama, and we'd go out there, late at night, 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock. And I remember parking that Oldsmobile up on top of the bluff and just laying on the hood, my buddies looking at the stars. Because the skies were just so big, and we actually had a lot of night sky. We have a lot of night skies. That are, people bragging about, oh, we have this night sky, like we got a lot of them.
Yes,
just gotta look around.
that's right. That's right. You gotta be
So
able to
you
find
get
it.
to relieve the sky.
Exactly. So, guys, yeah, that'll work. There we go. I hope that you'll find time to come by and see all of these pieces. We didn't really show, but just.
I'm not done.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're
not
still
done.
making-
I'm still doing the making.
There are pixies and dragonflies suspended and hanging around in here.
Those prairie sprites.
Prairie sprites.
Prairie
okay.
sprites, and that's because my mother used to tell me that when you saw lightning flies, not all of them were lightning bugs. And there's fairies and sprites flying around there, little prairie sprites.
I love those stories like that.
And when I found out the Comanches and all the other tribes had little people.
That's
Little
what
people,
I was thinking,
unified.
except they don't.
No,
wings.
this is my version. My version. The Comanche called them Unified. I want to say the Cherokee call them the Scranidi, maybe the Pawnee do.
The Chickasaw and the Choctaw both have them too.
Yes.
I've read books recently about, and they talk about these little people.
Being Scotch Irish, it's kind of like, hey, I got ownership on this too. Nobody believes bears, sprites, and leprechauns more than we do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. I love the folklore, which, how cool is it that it's a common thread amongst probably
all people
groups.
All people.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Some tribe in the Comanches, the Unified, were believed that they would be there when times are good or when times are bad, and they could help you or cause you problems depending on how you treat it. And I always tell my grandkids, I say, you look down that creek bottom down there, you'll see little fires, and it'll be the Unified. They're camping down there. They're like, oh, yeah, be quiet. But those are the same kind of stories my mom told me.
Yeah.
And so someday I'm going to come in and I'm going to have a granddaughter or a grandson. They're going to be making tell the stories to their kids.
That's
what
right.
made me really happy.
Exactly. Well, the little antlers on those sprites, I had friends who would tell me about the deer woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Oh, yeah.
man and a deer woman, and they had, stories about them, and they would always tell me. And anyway, I really love that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, the look, I don't know, I thought the animal features just kind of fit, you know?
Oh, for sure,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. So I just encourage you, please come by. You have no idea how much fun it is to walk through this featured artist gallery that we have right now. And Michael, your pieces are just fun. They bring a smile
Well,
to my face when I walk in.
That's what I want. When I first started, I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna be a contemporary artist.
Mm.
And I started working on my stuff, and I'd be working on it. Someone would say, well, what's your statement here? Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just having a good time.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. And then I figured out, okay, contemporary art's not for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was pretty happy when I found a genre that lets me tell my story.
Yes, and you have so many stories. You studied history. You're just a student of all
Oh,
of this.
it's just part of my life.
And so it's so evident in your work. It really
Well,
makes
thank you very much. I think the show is September 14th on Thursday.
the reception.
Reception.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to have you come in.
Yes.
Right now, they don't realize they're only about half full. We're gonna keep bringing stuff. We're making stuff, bringing it every day.
Yay.
So,
Yay.
so the concept here is when I did this show just for this gallery and for this space.
It's perfect. And I'll be honest with you, anytime we're back in our office and we see you pull up, we have a door that looks out. Oh, there's
Oh, yeah.
just
I got some really big stuff.
Oh, it's gonna be so great. So yes, put September 14th. It'll probably start at, I don't know what time.
We talked about it in
In the evening.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll be promoting it. You will not have to guess. We will be promoting it. And come by, meet Michael, see his works, and you're gonna be here through the end of the year.
Yeah,
So I mean,
I plan to continue to grow this.
yeah, so
Grow
one
the
time through is not gonna be good enough.
Hopefully not. I'll come back.
Yeah.
Hey, you come back and see it. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I love doing it.
Yeah, super fun talk.
It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, great stories and great pieces. So you guys, be sure and plan to come up here and get a glimpse of this and know that this isn't it. There's gonna be more. Thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you guys next week. And we always say happy trails when it's time to sign off. You ready? Yeah, okay. Happy trails.